What's going on, guys? VinylicPuma here, back with another Borderlands 2 video, and today I'd like to go over my level 80 OP10 build for Zero, and more specifically, go over how I would put together a sniper build. Now, like some of my more recent build videos, this video will go over Zero's skill tree somewhat in depth, two ways I like to set up my skill tree build, and I'll also be discussing some gear recommendations as well. This video will be geared specifically towards Zero sniper builds, so some skills or gear that would normally be recommended for melee or gun style builds may not be mentioned or recommended here. So just keep that in mind when I do or don't discuss these things, as it doesn't necessarily mean that these things are bad, it just means that they're not ideal for a sniper build. Also, definitely be sure to smash like on this video for a free flying saucer. Flying saucers are really cool, and your liking this video will ensure that you receive your very own UFO saucer. So definitely be sure to smash like. Otherwise, we've got a lot to go over here, so let's discuss why Sniper Zer0 is the best or most powerful build for Zero, and then we'll get into our skill tree in more depth. In my mind, what makes Sniper Zer0 better than other types of Zero builds mainly has to do with the scaling of snipers compared to melee and the ludicrous damage potential certain skills can allow snipers to achieve. In the case of the former, there's a cap on the player's melee damage in that it's based on player level, which weakens melee as you progress in overpower levels. This is not the case for snipers, which, like most guns in the game, have their own level and deal a corresponding amount of damage to that level. As for the latter, Critical Ascension is a powerful skill that boosts sniper gun and critical hit damage based on stack count, with stacks being accrued upon scoring criticals with a sniper. With a lot of stacks, Critical Ascension can become extremely powerful, and this gives snipers a huge advantage over conventional guns while playing as Zero. So between both of these factors, Sniper Zer0 really is the strongest type of build for Zero. The only question is, what skills from what skill trees are best and which ones are worth avoiding? Let's go ahead here and start with the Sniping subtree. For Tier 1, Headshot is going to be essential for boosting our critical hit damage, while you can probably get by without optics. The improved zoom can be nice at longer distances, however may prove to be somewhat detrimental when you are closer to your target. Some people really like this skill, so you can spec for it if you want, but I don't think there's any disputing that Headshot is more essential, since it will make your criticals with snipers more powerful. Moving on to Tier 2, we have Killer and Precision. Killer is a kill skill that further improves critical hit damage and improves reload speed, while Precision boosts your accuracy across all weapon types. For our purposes, both of these skills are pretty good, as Killer will improve your damage on criticals, while Precision provides better accuracy and better accuracy recovery for your snipers. So I would say picking up both is just generally a good idea. As for Tier 3, investment in some of these can really vary. Picking up Bore is good for any Zero build, as it yields crazy damage on Bore shots. One shot, one kill, on the other hand, boosts the damage on the first shot of any full magazine, while Velocity boosts projectile speed and gun damage. Picking up Velocity will depend on what snipers you plan to use, as you may not want to use this skill with the Pimpernel, but most snipers should be okay with speccing into Velocity. Just remember to avoid Velocity depending on what snipers you end up using, but in general, all three skills are pretty good. As for the remainder of skills in Tier 4 through 6, Tier 4's Kill Confirmed only works while being scoped for prolonged periods, which limits its usefulness. Tier 5's At One with the Gun is basically essential, allowing for improved hip shot accuracy, better reload speed, and improved magazine size with sniper rifles, while picking up Critical Ascension is just a no-brainer. After all, 20 stacks will double your base damage with snipers, while providing more than double the crit bonus on top of that. So as you can see, it's just really powerful. You've also got to figure that Critical Ascension is just like one skill point, so it's definitely worth picking up. In the end, investing in most skills from the sniping tree is a good idea. Just avoid optics and Kill Confirmed and you should be good. This brings us to our next subtree, which is the Cunning subtree. Starting with Tier 1 and for a sniper build, it makes the most sense to go with Fast Hands, since its Tier 1 counterpart, Counter-Strike, is a more melee-oriented skill, thus it really just should be skipped entirely since we're putting together a sniper build. As for Tier 2, you have both Fearless and Ambush. Fearless is a skill that provides a fire rate and gun damage boost while your shields are depleted, which just isn't as useful as Ambush, which is a skill that provides a 20% damage boost when attacking enemies from behind, or when attacking enemies that are targeting someone else. Ambush does work with Deception and is compatible with all damage types, and thus, it's just the more useful skill here from Tier 2, so again, I'm going to have to recommend Ambush. This brings us to Tier 3, which features Rising Shot, Death Mark, and Unforeseen. If you ask me, Rising Shot can be useful depending on the snipers you're using, as snipers with an exceptionally low fire rate can benefit from its effects. Death Mark is great for the additional 80% damage bonus it provides, and goes with the capstone, which we will be discussing shortly. And as for Unforeseen, I usually view it as an extra place to dump points since Fearless, Counter-Strike, and the soon-to-be-mentioned Two Fang may not be ideal choices for a sniper build. But as far as Tier 3 goes, definitely be sure to pick up Death Mark and Rising Shot, while Unforeseen is sort of meh, but isn't necessarily too awful to have. And then there's Tiers 4 through 6, which include Tier 4's Innervate, Tier 5's Two Fang, and the Tier 6 capstone, which is Death Blossom. As mentioned earlier, Death Blossom will go really well with Death Mark, as it will allow you to apply Death Marks from a distance. Tier 4's Innervate is not quite as good as that skill, but is still useful in conjunction with Deception for a small gun damage boost and a small health regen boost, which is pretty nice. Tier 5's Two Fang, on the other hand, allows the player to occasionally fire more than one shot per trigger pull. However, I recommend avoiding this skill because it doesn't work well with Critical Ascension, as a Two Fang shot or Two Fang additional shot will not allow you to stack Critical Ascension. But for both melee and for traditional gun builds, Two Fang is a good choice, so it's not like it's a bad skill. Ultimately, investing in Cunning is mainly so you can get kunai while picking up a few skills here and there that are good to have. And something similar can be said of the Bloodshed subtree. Since Bloodshed is more of a melee skill tree, you won't get as much use out of it with a sniper build. That said, there are at least 4 good skills here that you will want to spec for, which are Tier 1's Killing Blow and Iron Hand, Tier 2's Grim, and Tier 3's Follow Through. For Tier 1, Killing Blow is more of a melee-oriented skill. However, unlike many other melee-oriented skills, the bonuses provided here are massive and work when opponents are very low on health. Failing that you ever even use it, it tends to be a more practical skill to pick than Iron Hand, which boosts your maximum health and melee damage. The reason for that is that Iron Hand presents certain complications or benefits depending on what gear you use, which we will discuss more in depth later on in the build section. As for Tier 2's Grim and Tier 3's Follow Through, both of these are versatile kill skills, with the former providing passive shield regen and action skill cooldown, while Follow Through provides a movement speed, gun damage, and melee damage boost while it's active. These skills tend to be better options within their respective tiers, since the other skills, which are Be Like Water, Backstab, and Execute, tend to be more melee focused and thus tend to be less useful overall. Usually, I like to put no more than 15 to 18 points in Bloodshed since I'm not going to be using a lot of the melee skills. So, and with that in mind, I won't bother discussing the higher tier skills within this particular subtree. But as a general guide, try to stick to the 3 skills on the left side of the Bloodshed subtree because those will be the most useful for a sniper build. In the end, and as a quick recap for all 3 subtrees, just be wary of optics, kill confirmed, and maybe velocity and sniping. Avoid all of the melee-based skills and Two Fang from the Cunning tree, and try to stick to the left side of the first 3 tiers in the Bloodshed tree. If you do that, you should come out with a pretty decent sniper build, even if you don't follow my specific builds I'm about to go over. And speaking of those specific builds, let's go ahead and talk about our first one, which is what I would like to call the Standard Sniper. So this is the skill tree for the first build, and features a skill tree point distribution of 33 points in Sniping, 27 points in Cunning, and 15 points in Bloodshed. The main reason I've decided to spec this way is due to the class mod you're going to be using most of the time, which is the legendary Sniper Com. This class mod will boost 5 of the skills we've spec'd for, which are one shot, one kill, velocity, precision, kill confirmed, and headshot. Of these 5, the only one we don't have maxed out is kill confirmed, since you're not going to be able to take advantage of it all of the time, since the bonus is achieved based on stacks that are accrued based on how long you've aimed down the scope. As for the rest of the sniping tree, picking up skills like @1 with the gun and critical ascension are just a really good idea since we're using snipers, while picking up both killer and bore are just good choices for really any zero build. For cunning, and as mentioned previously, a lot of our investment here is predicated on trying to get kunai while avoiding most of the melee-focused skills. After all, Counter-Strike is melee-focused, Two Fang doesn't allow you to gain critical ascension stacks, and Fearless doesn't play well with Grim from Bloodshed. Speaking of the Bloodshed subtree, a lot of our investment here should also be pretty straightforward. After all, we're not going to be using any melee, so sticking to the left side here is pretty easy. This said, you could swap Killing Blow with Iron Hand so long as you stick with a Sniper Com and don't use a Survivor Com and a Turtle Shield. That, and going back to sniping for a moment, if you decide you didn't want to invest in velocity because you're using the Pimpernel, you could feasibly also put those points in Iron Hand, keeping in mind not to use a Survivor Com and a Turtle Shield. Overall, I think you'll find this build is pretty good and should be less gear dependent than its alternative, which we should discuss now. So this sniper build could really be best described as a variation of the first. After all, a lot of the skill point distribution is the same, with the exception that one shot, one kill and unforeseen aren't maxed out, while that 1 point we had in killed confirmed is missing. The reason I decided to do this is so I could allocate a few points in Iron Hand, which when combined with a Survivor Com and a Turtle Shield, will actually end up reducing the player's max health rather than increasing it. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure why this works, but when combined with the finite max health boosts from the Survivor Com with percent-based max health boosts and a Turtle Shield, you can get this weird effect where, again, any percent-based max health boost from skills or gear will reduce your maximum health. When this is combined with the Survivor Com's inherent health regen, the player could potentially get their maximum health low enough to the point where the rate of regeneration is higher than maximum health. Thus, you regenerate your health almost instantly, provided you should lose some. What you're doing here is taking advantage of Borderlands 2's health gate mechanic, where if you take more damage than you have health and shields, you won't enter fight for your life, so long as you have more than 50% of your health remaining. The com will help you regenerate any lost health, thus allowing you to take advantage of the mechanic a lot more easily. Now, it is worth noting that you do have to do a lot of tweaking to get this set up correctly. If you're curious about what I do, I turn my badass rank off to remove the max health bonuses, and then from there, I stick with only a 9% bonus that I'm getting from Iron Hand at 3 out of 5. After that, I'm using an OP6 Hoplite that drains about 2.5 million of my health, and an OP10 Survivor Com that restores about 1.2 million of my health. I hope this info helps you find a proper ratio, but if not, just try to acquire the right gear and proper amount of max health bonus so that your health decreases below the regeneration rate on your Survivor Com. Beyond that though, and as mentioned previously, the rest of this skill tree is the same as the standard sniper, and if you decide you don't want velocity, you could always use those points anywhere else you want. I might recommend kill confirmed or optics, but feel free to experiment. Ultimately, both of these builds should work very well for Sniper Zer0. While they are gear dependent, especially when it comes to class mods, you still have a bunch of potential gear options available to you, so let me go ahead and make a few recommendations. For grenades, a lot of Zer0 players usually like to use Transfusion Grenade since he doesn't really have as many vectors for regenerating health as some of the other characters. With that in mind, I might recommend the O-, or even just a regular Transfusion Grenade. That said, if you're using more of a Survivor Sniper type setup, you could really use any grenade that you want, and I might recommend the Magic Missile, Chain Lightning, or any of the other general grenades that you think are pretty good. Again though, I'd recommend most players use transfusion since you're not going to be able to swap to a grog nozzle to heal without losing all of your critical ascension stacks. As far as shields go, again, it depends on whether you go the Survivor comm route or not. Obviously, Survivor class mod users will want a turtle shield, and you can use the hoplite like I am here, but I wouldn't count out seeking a non-unique variant that you like. After all, you don't have to worry about the movement penalty with a generic turtle shield, and you may find they're a little easier to get your hands on as well. Assuming you go the more standard sniper route though, you can really use whatever you like, so favorites like the Antagonist or Blockade are good choices. Just remember that when you use a sniper comm, you are reducing your overall shield capacity, so try to avoid something with lower capacity like the B shield or the Sham. For relics, it's really going to depend on the weapons you're using. For example, the Malevolent Sniper will work best with a Bone of the Ancients relic, while a Jacob's Muckamuck will work better with a Heart of the Ancients relic. Both will work well with the Blood of the Ancients relic, though Survivor comm users may find that the max health bonuses on those relics are just too steep to be usable. And if you do find you need that ammo boost, you really should get your hands on a stockpile relic if you're using a Survivor comm. But in general, I would recommend you go for damage boosts, favoring elemental damage boosts as opposed to sniper damage boosts. This brings us to our final gear category, which is going to involve weapons. As far as specific weapon recommendations go, I'd probably be doing the viewer a disservice if I didn't talk about getting yourself a low-level Droog. At higher difficulty levels, this will allow you to stack critical ascension on enemies, where you can then swap to another more powerful and adequately leveled sniper to then finish them off. After that though, you have a lot of options available to you as far as primary sniper rifles go. Provided you go the elemental route, the most popular sniper is usually the Malevolent Sniper. These things can come in all elements and gemstone variants are available, which makes them fantastic for dealing damage provided you match the proper element to the correct enemy. Additionally, on the non-unique front, you have the Droog, which can serve as both a sniper to boost critical ascension and just as an effective weapon when adequately leveled. And then of course there's also the Jacob's Muckamuck, which is popular for its high non-elemental damage. As for uniques and legendaries, snipers like the Invader, Hot Mama, Cherami, Morningstar, and Amigo Sincero can be great choices for the character. In fact, the newly added Amigo Sincero just might be the best Jacob sniper available thanks to its ability to bypass shields while simultaneously having very impressive base damage. However, I still think the two ultimate snipers in Borderlands 2 for Zero are going to be the Pimpernel and Lyudmila, with the former being a great weapon to bore with, while the Lyudmila is just an overpowered Droog with high crit bonus and a potential to spawn unlisted projectiles. Both of these snipers are truly top tier in Borderlands 2 and are highly recommended for that reason. Otherwise, there aren't really any other weapons to recommend. Since you're using critical ascension, it's a good idea to equip snipers to all 4 slots, as otherwise when swapping to a non-sniper, you'll lose all of your stacks. If you find you want a grog nozzle-like sniper rifle, you can get yourself a Cherami. The healing isn't as powerful, but slag variants could be good for slagging and then getting some free health off of enemies. Just keep in mind those orbs take a while to reach the player, and that can be problematic from time to time. At the end of the day though, I think you'll find this is a pretty comprehensive guide to Sniper Zer0. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, definitely be sure to smash like for your free UFO. Click the bell so you can be notified when I upload more Borderlands videos, and as always, and again, thank you all so much for supporting this channel. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.